Hello, John Mason. How is everybody? I am in total distress right now. We are seeing a terrible, terrible spate of mass shootings used with automatic weapons worthy of the military in civilian hands. And the civilians that these weapons are handling are racist, demented, evil people. And this has to stop. I'm thinking about the tragedies in Gilroy, California, El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio. And just yesterday, in the Philadelphia area where I live, a man was arrested after going to a Walmart, purchasing ammunition, and talking about shooting up the Temple University campus. And a tragedy could have happened, but thank God it didn't. No more of this thoughts and prayers crap. Action now on firearms. Just remember that when the Second Amendment to the Constitution was drawn up in the early 1790s, the firearms in that day were single-shot muskets. Every time you fired around, you had to pull back, stuff the more powder down the barrel, and then the wadding, then the ball, then pack it all down, and a little under an hour tops to do all that. With weapons like that, you can kill hundreds of people. But does the NRA worry about that? No. Who does the NRA represent really? Responsible gun owners? Guys who just want to go out in the woods and shoot Bambi? No. They're out for themselves. The recent corruption charges around Wayne LaPierre and Ollie North during their administration of the NRA and the machinations of their PR firm, Ackerman McQueen, show us nothing but a cash cow for so many corrupt people to suck on. They say it's long overdue to be destroyed. Sooner the better. So many of these shooting incidents are racially motivated. That they are enabled and encouraged by pundits and politicians who get ratings and votes by stoking up the fears of frightened, ignorant people. People who are white. And that has to stop. The one part is Donald Trump's, I don't want to call him president, Donald Trump's continued racist tirades on Twitter, such as his ones against Elijah Cummings, using the word infested about Cummings' area in Baltimore and other minority communities. Every time he talks about minorities, he uses the word infested, like they're vermin and not human. Now this is this is just unique with Trump. It's been going on for over 50 years, playing on racial fears by the Republican Party. Recently, there was a tape released of the phone conversation between then California Governor Ronald Reagan and then President Richard Nixon after the United Nations voted to to recognize the People's Republic of China as the China. Reagan referred to the African countries as monkeys and uncivilized and ignorant, and Nixon got a good laugh out of it. And we got Nixon's Southern strategy using racially stereotyped code words, such as welfare and crime in the streets and the war on drugs, appealing to the racism of the George Wallace voters of '68. And the war on drugs was like I said, a means to attack minority communities and anti-war activists. And we got Ronald Reagan ranting about the welfare queen, having dozens of Social Security numbers, gouging the welfare system for checks. A total myth, but it played on the racially motivated fears of his voters. And you have to remember, Reagan's 1980 presidential campaign began in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the site where in 1963, 3 civil rights activists were killed. And Reagan gets up and proclaims, "I believe in states' rights." States' rights, the rallying cry of the pre-Civil War South in their fight to preserve their precious slave system. And it was revived during the Civil Rights struggle to protect their precious Jim Crow system. And then you got the genteel New England Brahmin George H.W. Bush condescending to the Willie Horton ads about the scary black rapist with a knife. Bush's campaign manager at that time, Lee Atwater, right there admitted that subliminal racism was the key to votes in that election for Bush. Blatant spouting of the N-word was not acceptable. So they had to appeal to subconsciously held racial stereotypes, such as the association of African Americans with crime and violence and welfare and poverty. And now it's culminated to Donald Trump using the time, starting with the time he descended down the escalator and proclaimed his big beautiful wall against Mexico, proclaiming Mexicans to be rapists and drug dealers and criminals and gangsters, and so many of you are still are good people. And his real estate company's long history of discrimination against black tenants and black employees in his casinos, and racial stereotyping and talking about Jews and blacks and dealing with his finances, and his calls for the death penalty against the Central Park Five even after they were proven to be innocent of the rape in Central Park. This is what we have to oppose. This is what fuels these racially motivated incidents of violence. From Charlottesville, where Trump said there were very fine people amongst the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis. We are going to make a stand right here and now against gun violence. Screw the NRA, get the guns off the streets. Get the guns off the streets. Why should a person have an Uzi or an AK-47 to hunt ducks or deer? No way, no way. This has to stop now. finally, I have to state, racism has to end among white people. We must all eradicate racism from within ourselves or within our society. It's these racially motivated fears and rhetoric that get these politicians elected, the same politicians who enact policies that work to the detriment of working and low-class, low-income people of all races, such as tax breaks for corporations and plutocrats, and attempts to deregulate the laws protecting the air, land, and water, and occupational safety. Let's wake up. Let's understand that this can't last. This mustn't last. Our planet's at stake, our nation's at stake, our freedom's at stake. Let's end racism now. Let's end gun violence now. Let's bring our government of, by, and for the people back to the people. And it certainly would help if we go out in November and vote. That shows them that we, the people, are paying attention to the politicians. Thank you. Bye.